There it is. All right, now we're learning the Sikha. We're learning the Sikha of the Rebbe. And this is in Chelik Gimel. And it's talking about the future redemption. And the future redemption, it depends on spreading out the well springs of Chassidut. As is known, the story of the meeting of the Baal Shem Tov with the Moshiach. It says there was one Rosh Hashanah that the Baal Shem Tov writes that he had an experience that his soul went up to the highest chambers in the spiritual worlds and went to the chamber of the Moshiach, and he asked the Moshiach the question which had been asked by Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi 1,000 whatever is 500 years earlier. When are you going to come and stop the problems of the Jewish people? And the Moshiach answered Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. He said, when the Jewish people do when they listen to my voice, they listen to the voice of God. So the Baal Shem Tov now went to the Moshiach and said, listen, the Jewish people are listening to God's voice and they've been doing it for a long time and they've been suffering. So when are you going to come and take the Jews out of this terrible exile, just like Moses did? And he said, when your well springs are spread out, when your deep teachings are spread out. Because what are these deep teachings? These deep teachings are the secrets of the Torah. The secrets of the Torah, I'm reviewing what we learned. The secrets of the Torah basically were brought about by four people. One of them, the first one, was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he wrote the book called the Zohar. And the Zohar brought out the secrets of the Torah, but only to a very select few. Some 1,000, whatever it is, 500 years later came the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, he began the whole movement of, 1,500 years later came the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, and he explained a lot of the ideas of the Zohar. He explained them in very, very great detail, and he made them into a whole system that could be understandable, but again, only to a select few, albeit more people than Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but still, nevertheless, a very select few. After that came the Baal Shem Tov, about 100 years after the Arizal, something like that. And he started the whole Hasidic movement, to bring these deep ideas even to simple people. But he brought it in very simple terms. And then after that came Chassidut Chabad, especially the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he took these ideas and explained them, the deepest ideas, in the most simple and practical ways. And all of these four people, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, and the Baal Shem Tov, and the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, are all hinted at by the word Beresh. Beresh, right? What is the word Beresh? Where do you see it? It's a word, a translation, an Aramaic translation that's found in the Aramaic translation Targum Onkelos, Beresh, and it's the word with a head, the head. When the Jewish people got out of Egypt after they went across the sea, it says V'am Yisrael, the Yotzim Bar Yad Ramah. They went on, not before them, even before they went across the sea. It says the Jewish people went out B'Yad Ramah. It says with a high hand, and the Aramaic translation is Beresh Gilei, with a high head. Beresh, with a high head. This word Beresh has the initials of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Yitzchak ben Shlomo, the Arizal. Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem, the Baal Shem Tov. And Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak ben Sora Shterna, the previous Rebbe's, and also Shalom Dovber, right? Shalom Dovber was his father. That was the previous Rebbe. Okay, says the Rebbe, Hagam, even though as b'derech klal in general is nit kain derech, there is no real, not much value to machen eingene rosh tevos, to make up your own initials and hints and gematrias. It's a nice thing to do, but there's not much of a point in it. But benogea le'inyanim, it catches people's attention, but which is, it's okay, but it doesn't really have any deep, necessarily truth involved in it. But benogea le'inyanim, again, if the Arizal or these holy people, they make up these initials, then of course it's important. But if I make it up, so it's a nice thing, it's interesting, it's fun, it's an interesting thing, but it's not necessarily true. But in regarding to things which are on their own, Zain and Chlor, Richtig, but if you have something that you already know is true, and you want to make up your own first letters and gematrias just to drive the idea home, but the idea itself is true, as hot and ort zu zogen wegen then it's good to make up these ideas and initials and first letters and things like that. Yeder on Haga, everything with derech in Welt, everything which happens in the world is geschmacker. It's more pleasurable and meaningful. Oy men gefin dugmasam, if we can find something, at least a hint or something in the Torah. It's Ken men zagen, so we can say also in our case, if we can connect everything in the world to the Torah, even if we're making up our own ideas, but if it's a positive thing, so it's nice. Thus is al derech vida Rambam, like for instance, the Rambam says in the beginning of his explanation of the Mishnayos regarding an etrog. It says hadas, which the Gemara Darshan learns them from the pasuk, right? Pre-Eitz Hadar, Kapos Tamorim, is nit der pshat, but it's not the simple meaning as an the Derisha hat men nit gewusst was is main pre-Eitz Hadar, etc. Right? Interesting. The Torah, in general, doesn't really explain anything. If you don't have the Gemara, Mishnah and Gemara, then the whole Torah, the whole entire Torah, the whole 5 books of Moses, is just a free-for-all. It's just like a circus. The words mean nothing. It doesn't tell you which day is Shabbat. It doesn't tell you how you're supposed to honor your mother and father. It doesn't tell you what it means don't kill, don't steal. Maybe it means don't kill bacteria. Maybe it means don't steal first base. Well, you don't know what it means, right? The whole entire Torah. The Torah has no commandments. You can't understand what it is. You're supposed to put a mezuzah on your door. You're supposed to put a sign on your head. What is it? Now, here's another example. On the holiday of Sukkot, so it says that you're supposed to take a splendid fruit and the palms of a tree and the what is it, like the arve, who knows what arve is, of the stream. So that doesn't make any sense what it is. So the Gemara says, no, you have to learn this properly. That what it says, that the beautiful fruits, that's talking about an etrog. An etrog, a special fruit, an etrog. Who would ever think of such something like this? Says the Rambam, don't think that we wouldn't know what to take if it wasn't for the Torah saying it. The commandment was already there. Nor Eden haben bekala doros gewusst bekabbalah. People knew, the Jews knew from generation to generation what exactly these 4 types were. I mean, when was the Gemara written, right? When was the Gemara written down? The Gemara was passed down from generation to generation. But when was the Gemara written? It was written like what, 1,000, the 2,000 years after the Torah was given. The Torah was, the Talmud was written down. 1,000, whatever, it's 500 years, 600 years, was written after. So 1,000 years, what the Jews didn't know what to do. It says the whole time the Jews, before it was written down, the Jews knew what to do. They knew what tefillin was, and they knew what lulav and esrog was. Nor azoi v'altz, like everything else is hinted at in the Torah. So the chachamim, the great rabbis, they looked and they found a hint in the Torah on what these things were. But really, they knew what to do. They just found a hint. There are certain things in the Torah where the rabbis learn, especially the decrees that they learned. They weren't there before the rabbis learned it out. They weren't. There are things. But generally speaking, these major commandments, in other words, everyone knew what was forbidden to do on Shabbat. Before the Gemara came along and explained and brought it down, they knew what was forbidden and they knew what was permissible. Right? The same with all the other commandments. So in other words, what's the Rebbe saying? It's a good thing to look for hints in the Torah for things that we know are true. Like we said before, the same thing with this letter Beresh, learning all, like we said before, the beginning from revelation of Chassidus to everyone without any limitation really began from the Baal Shem Tov. As is known that the Baal Shem Tov was what used to go around from city to city and from village to village, and he would talk about Torah and Chassidut. He would tell stories, even to the most simple people. Nor b'chdei, in order that the simple people, they should understand. As Hat der Baal Shem Tov, he would also put ideas of Chassidut, bringing it down into their level, even simple stories, short words, short sayings, etc. And in this, there was contained in these stories and in these little sayings that he had, right, there were really contained deep, deep, deep secrets. They say that what happened when the Baal Shem Tov came along, just in a short way, the Baal Shem Tov came along at a very, very low point in Judaism. A very low point in Judaism. What happened? First of all, the Jewish people were all in exile. They were in Poland. They were scattered around. The temple had already been destroyed, 1,600 years. It seemed that it just wasn't going to end. Not only that, the Jews were still serving God and they still believed in God, and all they got from it was just problems and troubles and difficulties. There was terrible poverty. And to make everything worse, all of a sudden, right before the Baal Shem Tov, not many years, 50 or something, before the Baal Shem Tov, as came along a Shabbatai Tzvi. And Shabbatai Tzvi, he said, "Here I am. I'm the answer. This is the result of all of your suffering. It's over. I'm the Moshiach." And he wasn't the Moshiach. He had no qualifications of Moshiach. They say he was a genius in Torah, but he didn't have anything that the Moshiach was supposed to have. If they would have looked in the Rambam, they wouldn't have seen. But people were so desperate that they really thought he was the Moshiach, and it ended up that he was totally not. He misled everybody, and he changed his religion. He became a Muslim, and it was a tremendous, how do you say, disappointment is not even the word, for the whole Jewish people. A lot of people really did believe that he was the Moshiach. The people sold their houses, they followed him. And it ended up that it was a total imposter. This, of course, destroyed a lot of people's hopes. Then after that came what's called the intellectual movement, the Haskalah movement. The intellectual movement was an alternative to Judaism. Let's leave the Torah. We see it's not working. Here we have the wonderful philosophies of France and of Germany, and listen to this music, and what about art and this? And Jews started leaving in droves. They started leaving Judaism. There simply was no joy anymore. There was nothing there for them. And then after that, there was what we called Chmielnicki. I think that Chmielnicki actually was before. He was before the Shabbatai Tzvi. I think he was right before Shabbatai Tzvi. That was one of the reasons why Shabbatai Tzvi succeeded. Bogdan Chmielnicki, he was a leader in the Ukraine. Even to this day, there's statues of him. And he went through from town to town and just killed Jews in the most cruel, incredibly sadistic ways. And his followers also. They killed, who knows, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Jews everywhere. That was called the Perot of Tach V'Tat. They killed. So the Jews had all this terrible destruction, this Holocaust that came on them. And then after that, the false Messiah. And then after that, all of a sudden there was this door that opened up to escape Judaism. So people figured this, and there's nothing to it in Judaism anymore. It's just a sad, miserable thing. And there were some religious Jews that they said, listen, it's worth the suffering in order to go to heaven. This world is, it's terrible. And everybody knows it. When you go to heaven, it's really going to be good. And that's not the essence of Judaism. Judaism believes in heaven, but not that the purpose is just this whole world is just a meaningless torture chamber in order to go through it and get purified to, a car wash in order to get to the other end, go to heaven. That's not the purpose of Judaism. The purpose of Judaism is to be happy and serve God and fix up the world. How can you be happy in such a conditions? So came along the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov started to reorient everyone and explain to everyone how God really does exist and how there's miracles happening all the time. And that despite all the troubles that we see in the world, there's tzaddikim, and that it's going to be okay, Moshiach is going to go. The conduct of so the Baal Shem Tov used to go around from place to place. The conduct of the previous of the Mazrit, the conduct of the Mezritcher Magi, the Magid of Mezrich, we talked about before, the successor of the Baal Shem Tov, he was the pupil, and the successor of the Baal Shem Tov was that he would say ideas of Chassidut, very, very deep ideas, and with not very many stories and things like that. But it was only for his pupils, great people in Torah, but not for everybody. The Magid of Mezrich, it said he had 60 pupils, 70 pupils he had, and his idea was that he was going to make them like Baal Shem Tovs. They were going to go around and make Hasidim everywhere. But first of all, he had to fill them up with the deepest ideas in Judaism. So it wasn't like the Baal Shem Tov where he went around to the simple people and told stories. He was making pupils, devoted pupils, and each one of them would be something like a Baal Shem Tov. It would go around. But he used to sit in one place and say these deep secrets of the Torah. The conduct of the first Rebbe of Chabad, that he was the first, he was the youngest, but he was the choice pupil, and actually in many ways he was the successor of the Magid of Mezrich and the other Rebbes that took over the Chabad Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe started Chabad, and then from him came the other Rebbes of Chabad that took over his place, was that taking the ideas of Chassidut and putting them into intellect, in understanding, but understanding to everyone, not like the Magid of Mezrich would do, that he put the ideas into understanding, but only to a select few. True, it was Chassidut, it wasn't exactly Kabbalah, so these ideas were digestible, and he made them in a way that his pupils could go around and spread them around. But the way of the Alter Rebbe is that he made the ideas really, really understandable. Because even the other pupils of the Baal Shem Tov, the other pupils of the Magid of Mezrich, that he sent them out to be like Baal Shem Tovs all over the place, to be over, but still none of them really appealed to the simple people. And the Alter Rebbe, he appealed also to simple people. He put his ideas into normal understanding. We see that even when the Alter Rebbe was put into prison, right, he was put into prison, so the non-Jews asked him a question about the Tanya. So it means that they also had read the Tanya. They had a question, right, about the first, how could you say that the Jews are good and that the non-Jews are not good? They are quite, as oich seichel anushi, that even human normal intelligence that you use in order to put a horseshoe on your horse or whatever can also understand the ideas of Chassidut. Und das is der oiftu. This was the effect and the result of Chassidut Chabad, to reveal the Chassidut for every single Jew, not only for special Jews, not even for religious Jews. Was zayin and shayach to the mitzad godel, not for special high Jews which have a high soul, or because of their service, and especially this after the Alter Rebbe was Yud Tet Kislev, which we'll talk about that another time. The Alter Rebbe was put into prison, and after he got out of prison, so for sure then he changed this whole way of teaching, that even the simplest Jew should be able to understand. By means of that, in the course of time, he had made great and wider the whole idea of learning the deep ideas of Chassidut, the great learning which brings to deed, the Anhaga Chassidus. In other words, the Alter Rebbe made it that now Jews would be enlivened. They would be aware, connected to not just this physical world, but also a different dimension of reality, more real values that are more real in this world. That'll make Jews, all of a sudden, everything had a new purpose. Now, it's a very interesting thing that according to a person's attitude, the world changes. Not 100%, but nevertheless it does. A person that is positive, then the world around him, he draws positive energy, and he also changes situations to be positive. Right? I'm sure we all know that. That's a very basic thing, right? If you go into, you're friendly with the person, you smile at the person, the person smiles back. Smile at a little baby, the baby smiles back to you. Right? So that your attitude changes the whole world that surrounds you. It changes it spiritually, it changes it physically, it changes it actually, it changes it in the future, but it changes it. When a Jew really believes in the Creator, and he believes the Creator is really good, and that the goodness of the Creator is that he gave us the Torah and the commandments, then he's living in a whole different, not a little tiny pressure cooker world. Suddenly it has an opening to it. And in every situation, he can say to himself, well, what does God want me to do here? Right? What should I, how should I react according to what God wants? How can I be positive according to the way that the Creator wants me to be? And the teachings of Chassidut make it real. It makes it a personal, intimate inside of every single person. And that's the whole idea of the coming of the Moshiach. What this has to do with Yud Shvat, which that's the whole purpose, this we're going to learn, God willing, tomorrow. Thank you very much. Oh, Yom Yom. Want to say the Yom Yom? Yes. Actually, probably could download the Yom Yom also. Yom Yom today is what? 6th day, right? 6th day of Shvat. Correct? Yes. The 6th day of Shvat. The 5th Rebbe of Chabad wrote he wrote that he heard from the 1st Rebbe of Chabad that all of the Jewish writers, including the Shach and the Taz, the Shach is the Sifsei Chachamim, Reb Shabbatai HaKohen, and the Taz, these are the commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch of Reb Yosef Cairo. They lived in the time of the Shabbatai Tzvi. They lived there right before the Baal Shem Tov, like 50, 60 years before the Baal Shem Tov. And all of these writers, they wrote with what's called Ruach HaKodesh, with total divine inspiration. What is divine inspiration? This is explained in the book in Korban Ha'eda, that this is what is revealed to him, the secrets of the Torah. This is what's called the level of Helam HaChachma, the source of wisdom. So all of these explainers that you see in the big Shulchan Aruch that are written, all these commentaries, they all are the word of God. It goes without saying the word in the Talmud. Have a good day, everyone. God bless you. And 3 o'clock, everyone's invited to learn Chumash with the commentaries. Today we're going to learn about the Jews leaving Egypt, the last plague, the plague of the death of the firstborn, and the Jews leaving Egypt, and beforehand making the Paschal lamb sacrifice, Pesach offering, a preparation for Pesach, which is going to be in another couple months, right? Not long. God bless you all. Have a good day with Moshiach now.